Okay, introducing our first player. In the upper left, in the red, he is last. And his opponent here in the bottom right, in the orange. Make some noise for Rain! I like the zoom in we're doing after that.
Yes.
Like we do in StarCraft 2, but now we can do that in Remastered, so we kind of scroll that mouse wheel a little bit and get a little bit closer in there.
Indeed, indeed. And, you know, kind of exciting here. We're having a mixture of the maps of KSL and ASL. This very first map going to be Gladiator, an old-time favorite, and a very good map overall for the Terran versus Protoss matchup.
Certainly is the case. So in Gladiator, you actually start out on low ground and are trying to get onto high ground where your natural expansion is. So that already changes stuff up quite a bit here as far as how the matchup operates. Now, TVP, I think we should still see some fairly standard openings, but definitely something to watch for.
Well, already we do have a fairly standard opening coming out of last, but a new opening in case anyone here has not really been watching StarCraft 1 in the last few years, you know, maybe due to watching StarCraft 2 or whatever it might be. But this is going to be a gasless expand coming out of last. He's going to skip that gas, get a command center as quickly as he possibly can, and protect that with a bunker while teching up to his factory.
Yeah, and this can be a little bit risky if the other player decides to rush you early on. We'll see if that actually turns out to be the case this time around. Now, PvT, if we could just go big picture here, because I know there's plenty of people that just watch StarCraft 2 that might not be that familiar with StarCraft 1. In this matchup, the Terran is pretty much locked into going mech units. If you were to go to, let's say, Marine Medic, basically everything that Protoss has beats that.
Yes.
Reavers beat that, Sonic Storm beats that. A lot of times just Zealots and Dragoons beat that. So initially, you know, this is of course 20 years ago, but when the game first came out, the Terrans were faced with this problem of how the hell do you actually beat a Protoss player? And eventually Terrans figured out that you need to wall in and go for mech units. Now, we're going to see mech 99% chance in this game, but this time around what Last is doing is trying to get a quick expand up and then go into mech. And because that takes a little while to do, there's a lot of opportunities for Protoss to try to come in here and punish the Terran.
Yeah, and he is going to try that actually. He's harassing lightly with this probe, just getting some damage on the SCVs, and this is going to come into play because a Zealot is almost to this base. But a big part of StarCraft 1 is how you put your buildings together. And we have a beautiful little hole in between this depot and barracks that Marine can slide through. The Zealot can't follow him, but that Zealot is beefy, so it's going to be hard to take it out.
He's trying to get in the way of this Marine. The probe does go down, but you can see with really good control here by Last, he's just able to escape without losing very much. However, the SCVs are being punished here.
Yeah, this is already a very worthwhile Zealot, killing a couple SCVs off, and it will eventually be chased away. You don't expect to win with a strategy like this, but he's putting some damage out. Oh, and he actually stops the bunker from finishing.
Okay, this is getting pretty bad here.
Yeah.
2 Marine kills. You know, it's very difficult to control perfectly in StarCraft 1, but we're seeing that basically come out of Rain here. Each of these Marines is taking so much damage and the bunker not finished. I believe, is there a Dragoon coming up behind this?
There should be, and
oh my
there
God.
it is, before that bunker is even done.
Oh, it finishes, but the Dragoon's in the way. There's no way for the Marines to easily get in there. One's gonna try to get forward, and it goes down.
Oh my God, this micro out of Rain is insane. He's killed so many Marines off, and Last is in a lot of trouble. He cannot get a Marine to that bunker right now.
Okay, the Marine's gonna try to come forward, and the oh my God, it actually connects. Okay, 1 Marine has managed to get in, but still that's not a lot of damage, right? I mean, the Zealots and Dragoons can still keep killing SCVs, and this is starting to snowball here.
Oh, absolutely. 1 Marine is nothing to be afraid of. Now, as the second comes out, we might see him pull back. The damage starts to add up as those shields wear down, but no matter how you look at this is a big advantage to Rain.
Now Dragoon range is finished, so he can start to hit this bunker. Now it takes about 2 SCVs to be repairing to hold off the damage from 2 Dragoons. But the factory's not even done, Artosis.
Yeah,
He's not even to where he needs to be with tech. These SCVs, they want to be mining. Instead, they're repairing.
Yeah, you know what? Everything is really behind right now for Last. It's a big problem. That initial probe into the initial 2 Zealots into the Dragoon has done a huge amount of damage. So Last is absolutely playing from behind here.
So from here on out, if we can get a shot of the Protoss base, please. I just want to see what kind of tech we're going to be dealing with. So he is going to go into a robo facility. It is pretty popular, especially at the end of 2017 and here in 2018, for players to go for a Reaver. And just continue to try to drop and kill off workers and do damage, because this is just going to keep the Terran further and further back. Now, this game is not over by any measure, but it is definitely an uphill fight here for Last.
Yeah, you know, he is such a Terran that he's going to have some tricks in his pocket, you know, to try to come back from here. We'll see where he goes from this factory. But for now, we have Rain getting the observatory. He's just going to get some observers out to go ahead, scout exactly what Last is up to. I think it's a very solid play, considering all he really needs to know is what trick is Last going to bring out to kind of regain his footing in this game.
Again, the damage is continuing to pile. I believe a tank should be coming out in a second here, but you got to be careful. There's that tank right now. You got to be careful here, because it's 8 Dragoon shots to kill a tank, so that means the 4 Dragoons each need to only fire twice, and sometimes you'll see Dragoons just try to pounce on this. Now, Last is well aware of that, but let's see if there's any kind of dive here by Rain, or if he's just going to play super conservative.
He's waiting for this tank to come out, and oh my god, it's actually got a bunch of damage on it. There is no siege mode yet. He hasn't even started. If he did, it was just a moment ago. Uh-oh, here we go. And Last is not quick enough to block that all the way, but actually defends reasonably well here, pulling that tank back.
Yeah, that went really well actually there for Last. I think if Rain done a better job with that, the tank would have been picked off, and then he would just run inside the main.
Yeah, that definitely could have been a tank kill there, but you know, it's very hard to control in StarCraft 1, and Last holds on, at least for the time being. It looks like, yes, Tasteless, you called it, Reavers are going to be on the way.
So you have to keep in mind, with all this pressure at the front of the Terran's base, is the main base actually exposed? Can he just get a Reaver in there and start blowing up SCVs? It seems like a possibility. This is not how people used to play. I mean, granted, Reaver drops are always around, but a lot of times it was you get a Reaver harassed and then you kind of back up. But in a game like this, we're seeing in modern StarCraft 1, we're seeing people use Reavers just in fights, like comboing it in there.
By the way, this is a first-person view of Rain, and it's a very peculiar thing, but he plays in a shrunken window.
Yeah, he plays this game in window
Guys,
mode.
This is his screen,
the
regular size
part in the
professional
background's
screen.
his screen too.
Yes, and he actually boxes the game down to this small to play. He is the only player I have ever seen do this. In fact, we were really wondering when we saw him practicing on this at the KSL studio, but it turns out, big match, everything on the line, absolutely. Let's play in a
the
tiny
window's so small, you could have Minesweeper opened up on the side. I mean, there's so many other things you could be doing here with this screen space.
I tell you what, he's hoping for StarCraft to announce a mobile game.
So, we've got the Reaver coming out here now. There's going to be a little bit of an engage. He's going to try to pull that back. And
actually takes some damage there on his Reaver, but definitely he's keeping it alive here. And Last has to turn around. You have to be very careful against this Reaver.
Okay, so he's going to try to push in here. We're waiting. I'm sorry, did he get siege mode? I wasn't actually paying attention to that part.
Oh, I think he may.
I don't think he has it.
It looks like he was.
Oh, there it is.
Well, it's certainly done now, at least. Plenty of siege tanks, and he will force Rain back with this.
There's a third base being taken here by Rain. Now, Protoss in this matchup, they kind of operate the way you would think of a Zerg player operating. They want to expand and start to spread all over the map, taking up bases here, there, and everywhere. And Rain's doing a very good job of that. He's got the Dragoons and the Reavers basically keeping the Terran contained. And Last is going to have to play some serious catch-up, and I don't know if Rain's going to let that happen.
Yeah, he's going to be harassing pretty heavily here. The anti-air being the Wraith definitely is useful, but a speed shuttle can kind of play around that a little bit. Now, Rain's macro is going to get out of control here. With his 3 bases up at this point, and the fact that Last is just, you know, a little bit behind in every way, Rain is going to field a gigantic army from here.
Now, let's keep in mind this another trend that's been popular here is for players to make lots of shuttles. Well, like, that's not lots, like 3 shuttles or something. Fill that up and then try to bust the Terran right there. Because if Last is not going to push, he at least needs to get a third base up. But it's tough to do, especially with the lead that Rain got from that attack early on. So we may see Rain go for a kill move here in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that at this point, you know, Rain, he wants to macro up heavily, get a ton of units out, and he's going to wait for Last to try to leave his area. When a Terran's in a defensive posture in StarCraft 1, it's nearly impossible to go in and kill them. In fact, it's going to be very cost inefficient for you. So if Rain sits back and waits and allows the pressure to just build on Last, that might be the best way.
Okay, we see that army coming up here now. Again, Rain with so many gateways. He's going to stay making Zealots and Dragoons here and basically try to overwhelm the other player. I don't know if Zealot Legs is going to finish in a second here, but just the fact that this is all coming up here and Terran's about to take a third base, there it is. Lots of shuttles here. He's going to try to drop in the main and then possibly attack the front.
Oh, this is a great job. 2 Reavers can just decimate a mineral line in seconds. Looks like maybe, oh no, it actually hits. That a beautiful shot there with the Reaver.
And behind this, we actually see that the army is set up to possibly attack it. Now he's got several more shuttles coming in here with other units to try to help aid in this attack.
Yeah, the speed shuttle is going to pick up some of these units as well, microing them back pretty well overall. The Zealot's getting on top of some of these siege tanks, and he continues to kill SCVs.
And these SCVs are just tucked away in the corner here. Again, the third base has been taken just out here, and I'm wondering if Rain might try to come and attack into this area here as well. There's just not that much to defend.
Oh, the speed shuttle coming over. No anti-air here to stop it. Reavers dropped in the middle of the siege tanks and blows up 2 of them in a matter of seconds. Last is on his last legs here.
GG. That does it for game 1. Rain crushing Last. With a commanding performance there. I mean, in the first, minute and a half or something like that. The Zealots Dragoons, they got in there, they did damage. Last held on, but how many SCVs did he lose? I'd say too many.
Yeah.
From there, Rain had a lot of different ways to try to close the game out, and he opted to go drop in the main and then smash the third base.
Well, Rain is certainly feeling pretty good about that victory right there. You know, cross spots, your opponent is going for a very macro-oriented build, and your opponent's Last, one of the best macro players in the world. To do that much damage, to gain that lead, is fantastic for a Protoss player.
Wow. Well, let's see what happens here in game 2. Now, a lot of that, you know, came down to that opening. Rain did not necessarily plan for that to go as well, but once he started to get some good engagements there, he's such a strong player. He knew how to totally, perfectly capitalize on it and close that one out. But game 2 should be a different story.
Well, I'm very interested and excited to see what will the map be for Game 2. These maps in Brood War are very, very different, each and every one. So we might get something really crazy in game number 2.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, Artosis. Now, Last, this is a player who just recently started to find his groove. On major stage matches, everybody said he was the best if you played him online, but of course it's a totally different beast to be on stage in front of all these people. Now, he just won KSL, but we've stepped it up. Now he's got to face the ASL champion. And all these, I mean, this is the whole world's watching. It's packed here. This is a way bigger audience than we had at the KSL final, so I wonder if maybe that's a factor as well. Maybe he feels a little bit out of his element.
Yeah, it could be. It could be for him, but it definitely won't be for Rain. I mean, this guy even got 3rd place at a WCS Global Finals back in 2012 for StarCraft 2, so he has seen and played in front of and won on a stage this large multiple times.
Now, our next map is going to be Roadkill. This is one of the newer StarCraft Remastered maps out here. Again, guys, in RTS games, it's so important that you continuously change the maps because that's how you keep the game fresh. That's how you force the players to come up with new strategies. And Roadkill is a pretty weird map in a lot of different ways. You again start out on low ground, but you have to try to gain footing on a high ground. There's a lot of expansions that are kind of tucked in the corners of the map that can be hard to access. We'll be unpacking all that and more as we now go into game number 2, Last versus Rain, here for the KSL versus ASL show match. Introducing our first player in the center left in the purple. Make some noise for Rain! His opponent here in the bottom. Our Terran player, the KSL champion. Give it up for Last!
So this is a 4-player map. and it is rotationally symmetric. So whenever you have a situation like that, unless they are cross spawns, you're going to have one spot that's going to be a little bit advantaged over the other. In this case, Rain should be pretty happy with his spot. You know, if he, for instance, wants to go for Reaver again, the Reaver can very quickly fly over that little ledge and right into the main base of Last, and then very quickly fly back to his own base to defend any frontal attacks.
Yeah, this is, again, it'll be a little bit dependent on what builds they choose to go for, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Rain tries to handle this. Rain is, I guess I should really address it more as a Protoss issue than just Rain. Protoss have a lot of tricks they can try to pull off early on to beat up on the Terran. The thing is, if the Terran doesn't take too much damage, it gets into late game, it becomes insanely hard for the Protoss to come up with a solution, because the way that the upgrades scale, the Terran upgrades for mech units are basically better than the Protoss upgrades for ground units. So as the game progresses, eventually the Terran units are just better, and that doesn't mean that Protoss automatically loses. They have a whole other game plan where they want to try to recall armies into the main. They want to go tech into carriers and try to mix up the unit compositions. But Protoss a lot of times want to exploit the early game against the Terran because they have a little bit of an edge there, and that's exactly what we saw in Game 1.
Yeah, certainly you're right about that. And if it does go a little bit later as well, they do have some other options. You mentioned recalling an army into the Terran main. Of course, you can use stasis from the Arbiter as well to freeze your opponent's units, maybe get the carriers out, which are just massively powerful in this matchup in StarCraft 1. And also, you know, Protoss normally gets more expansions than Terran, so if they can get up an additional 2 bases over what Terran has, generally you can overrun the Terran player, even if their upgrades are really nice.
Very, very true. Now we have that first factory coming down here for Last. So already this opening is a little bit different than what we saw in Game 1. In Game 1, Last was trying to sneak out an additional command center and then go into the map. In Game 2, not only is he getting his factory right away, but he had 3 SCVs mining on gas, which means he'll probably get a second factory.
Yes, it is looking very likely, but it is a little bit predictable. Last has been doing a lot of 2-factory play lately against Protoss. Of course, it's very deadly. If Protoss tries to just go for a few Dragoons in an expansion, the 2-factory can just kill them outright.
So if this doesn't work right away, the Terran's in an awkward position because he doesn't have an expansion up, but a lot of times Protosses just get rolled by this. They just get completely run over because they're trying to match the Terran by getting an expansion. The Terran never got one. And this army comes out and it's so much damage. There's also a lot of different... Whoa, hold on a second. He didn't get the SCV.
Yeah, a little mistake there by Rain, no doubt about it. To see that Nexus at this time, that is really nice for Last.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what's going on. He knows that his build pairs up nicely, but he is also faking Rain out. Look at this, the bunker coming up. This is not uncommon when you're going for an expansion on a map like this.
He did the peek.
He did.
He checked for a command center and he did not see one. Very cool stuff. Now, see how there's an SCV sitting there? This is all for the looks. He wants to make it look like, oh, I'm going to make it a command center any second now. Yep. But he's not. He's got 2 factories back there and he's going to push very soon. So let's see if Rain is ready, because there's going to be a lot more tough Terran units out here than there will be for Protoss.
Yeah, and this is a little bit tricky as well. Yeah, he ran past and got a little peek, but there are Terran strategies where you make the bunker and then the command center. Now, does Rain think it was one of those? Let's see where he goes tech-wise, but right now, this is looking Last favored.
Oh, I would say so, for sure. So we have another robo coming down here. There's 2 more gateways. And actually what Rain's doing is kind of the most standard build you can do in a PvT, and that's what Last is here to exploit, is Last wants to come out and really do a lot of damage right away. Again, 2 factories being made. Last has attempted to hide this and disguise this to make it look like it's a quick expand, when in fact it is not. Yeah,
and Rain might have some idea of this now, because his Dragoon tried to peek again. I don't think it got far enough to see a command center, but even seeing more Marines being made is a little bit of a tell. So what Rain is going to have to do here is micro on top of his ramp. If he brings his Dragoons over and tries to utilize that high ground advantage, he might be able to slow this enough to get enough units to hold on.
Okay, we're still waiting to see if that is what he's going to do, because Last has been very patient. He's now finally going to come out. Again, no command center. This attack has to work. Sometimes Protosses with perfect control can hold off almost a comical amount of Terran units, but this is a lot to ask for.
Yeah, this is a lot. 3 tanks, 4 Marines, and Vultures on the way. Rain is in a good position, but with only 4 Dragoons, it's going to be hard. You see him pulling probes now. He has got to hold on. If Last gets into position, it's going to be very hard to break.
Okay, the probe drill is pretty good, but again, 3 tanks and just 1 Dragoon. 2 more are coming out here to try to help hang on. He's more than happy to sack some of these probes to just keep his Nexus alive a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that, oh, the mine comes up, but it does not hit those Dragoons. He has whittled down quite a bit. The siege tanks are getting lower on health right now. Oh, but they're still pretty high. This is looking great for Last.
Again, no SCVs over here to repair. There's a small pylon wall, but he's got siege mode, and now this pylon wall makes it harder for the Protoss to try to come in here and kill off those tanks.
You are certainly right about that. He's also lost a lot of probes. He's got 3 pylons out here in a Nexus that he stands to lose, and Last is expanding behind this.
This is looking bad, but 3 more Dragoons come out, and Rain is going to try to fight back. 1 tank goes down. He's scrambling to pull the mine into the fight. The 2nd tank goes down. It's just 1 more. A few Vultures here, but 1 Dragoon against 1 tank as mines are being laid everywhere.
Oh my gosh, he almost broke all the tanks, but 1 lives at the end. Oh, a huge victory right there for Last, and now the mines going in front of the gateways.
Yeah, I think that's the death blow there as these Dragoons pop out and then they walk right into mines.
Oh, just brutal. Okay, he actually hits that one, which is nice, but now that he's losing probes in his main base as well, the comeback potential here for Rain is minimal.
That's right. He's still doing a decent job, though. I gotta hand it to him. He's still fighting off some more of these Vultures, but look, there's a minefield now on the high ground. The tank is coming forward. I believe that tank has almost no HP, but it doesn't matter because the Dragoons can't get in range to actually hit it.
No, not yet, but that Nexus still has some health on it, right? So he has time to try to break this. Tries to pull the mines over there, and he kills the tank, but loses all of his Dragoons once again.
There's still 1 Vulture coming in here. Again, you could 2-shot a probe with 1 Vulture, and there's really not that many probes left. So Rain needs to clean this up and try to stabilize.
Trying to pick off absolutely anything he can. A couple misfires there. Could have gotten 1 more probe, but not a big deal. Last is vastly ahead.
Yeah, you see, he didn't actually transfer SCVs back to his command center. He was so focused on trying to control that correctly. Now, Rain has survived, but I don't know if he's going to be able to last that long in this game. I mean, there's still 2 factories here for Terran. Rain has gateways that he can't even make out of consistently because he's so low on workers. So this is going to be very tough here for Rain.
Yeah, his economy is just so badly hurt. You know, at least I guess Last only has 2 factories if we're trying to look at the bright side of things, but there's not a lot of bright things here for Protoss.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because oh, that's it. He's just going to tap out. I was going to say, I don't know how on earth he could recover from that. So, GG, we're going to hop into game number 3 here as Last. I think making a very intelligent build order choice. Zones Rain out of a victory there with that 2-factory push.
Yeah, it was really well done, but I got to say, I was very impressed with Rain almost holding it. The turning point in that game was actually a spider mine that killed the 2 Dragoons that were to the left of the Nexus. If that hadn't happened, I think that game is a lot closer.
I agree. Let's see what he does now going into game 3. The thing is, kind of similar to what we've seen in the TY match, where TY kept doing the same build to try to trick Rogue. You got to be careful how often you use a build like that. I mean, you can't do factory every game where you're going to get shut down.
Yes, that's so true. If you know it's coming, it's very easy to end up hard countering and stopping, but we're going to have to see now what the next map is. I think we're going to get into the very weird territory at this point.
I think so. Again, we have yet to go into a pretty standard game. Both these guys taking a beating in the early game and losing. So we're tied up 1-1. Yeah, let's see what happens as we go into game number 3 here. And our map is going to be Third World, by the way, for that.
Okay, Third World is a very weird map. This is one where it is divided in the center. Your army cannot move without air transport from one side to the other. You start on the right side of the map and then must use flying units to go to the left, except for probes and SCVs. So this is going to be cool. This is generally considered a Protoss favored map, and definitely a very good carrier map as well.
Oh, certainly. I mean, carriers, the more open the map is, the less strong they can be in some instances, but the moment that you have valleys and narrow areas, then air units can really be abused, and that's definitely something we want to watch out for.
Yeah, all right, we'll see how it goes into the next game here, Tasteless. Rain against Last, 1-1.
Okay, game 3 is loaded up, and we are good to go in this best of 5. The show match between the champion of the ASL and the champion of the KSL. In the bottom left, in the white, make some noise for Last! And his opponent here in the upper right, in the yellow, our Protoss player, he is Rain!
Oh, I'm really excited about this right now. Uh-oh, Rain sending a probe out right off the bat. I think we're gonna see some proxy gate.
Okay, well, this is something you can do on a one-on-one map. I mean, if you know where your opponent spawns, then you can immediately start to tailor the location of the structures in an abusive way to try to punish them. Now, is he going to make gateways somewhere close? Is he going to steal the gas? There's a lot of stuff you can do. I mean, in StarCraft 1, you've only got one gas, and they could just go and build on top of that, and then you don't get to tech, and they do.
Yeah, and it looks like, I think you're right, it should be a proxy, rather an offensive gas, since he made the pylon in his main base. Both can be popular on the map. But once you take that gas, it becomes a little bit tricky for the Terran player. You know, not being able to get your siege tanks out on time, that's your ultimate defensive unit as Terran.
There are so many salty Terran players watching this right now, because anybody who's played this matchup knows just how frustrating this is. So it doesn't mean that the Terran's going to lose, because there's a lot of games where Terrans have come back and won from this. But what it does mean is that the Protoss is in total control of the choices for Terran. I mean, if you think of Terran having maybe 10 different ways to open this up, now they've got like 2 or 3.
Yes, it's very true.
And there's still so many different things a Protoss can do. I mean, a Protoss could try to expand behind this. You could go for a quick Reaver drop. You can go for DTs. You can go for a Dragoon Rush. It's really tough.
Yeah. And to counter all of those at once as Terran is very, very difficult, right? Because if they take their expansion, you don't really have a whole lot to fight that off with, because again, you just have Marines, which can be out-microed. If they go for those heavy Dragoons, they're going to get a lot of them before you have a siege tank out, especially if you take your command center quickly. If they go for the Reaver, you have to have turrets and siege tanks.
He just sniped that one SCV. Yeah, with a probe, because its attack is actually like a little bit ranged, you can really try to abuse Terrans early on. And you see he already got that SCV. So it appears as though Lass is just going to try to make a command center and push out to an expansion here. And by the way, Rain is looking to expand himself, but greatly done.
Yes.
And eBay comes down here to block. So you have this excess of minerals when they steal your gas, and so he's utilized this really intelligently. He put an eBay there, and he's going to cancel that right before it dies, but it buys a little bit more time before the Nexus can start.
Yeah, and it seems like Rain was really on top of this. That's such a common counter when you get your gas stolen. You want to slow that expansion because, again, like you said, Tasteless, there's no counter from Terran at that point. So the engineering bay just kind of slows it down, but he barely got any health on it, so very quickly Rain gets to expand anyways.
Okay, now the question is there any kind of punish coming out here for Rain to Last? Because keep in mind, Rain knows when that gas is going to be reclaimed because it's his assimilator on that.
Yeah, he sees
So when the assimilator's killed, then Rain can basically map out, okay, now I know when your factory is going to have finally finished because he's got all these numbers mapped out perfectly.
Well, it looks like Lass is actually just going to take the gas in his natural, which is kind of a funny way to do it, but you absolutely can go about it that way if you're a professional Terran and a KSL champion. In the meantime, Rain teching up right now. And, oh my god, he's actually going to try to run by with the Zealots.
Oh, this is so cool. The SCV hasn't finished the command center, and these Zealots are just going to start beating down on the SCVs in this area.
And that's going to slow that gas even more right now, but this is a tiny ramp, so he can micro against these Zealots. But look at this, he's losing multiple SCVs. We've seen him already lose 3. So these Zealots, I would say, have definitely paid for themselves.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to lose one of them, but that was totally worth it. Just stopping, or I should say slowing the development there for the Terran. That's actually something we don't really see that often. The 2 Zealots run by there and get the SCV, but that worked out really nicely.
Yeah, I think it was a really smart play, especially because the Marines from the bunker got pulled back to deal with the assimilator in the main base. So you know there's not a lot in that bunker. It's not like Lass is sitting here making 8 Marines. He wants to keep as few as possible.
Now, something I'm wondering here is, will he be able to go for Reavers off this? We see Reavers so often now. Oh my god.
Yeah.
He's actually going to do that. Okay, he's going to make a third command center right away. Now, this is, on paper, not supposed to work because the Protoss could just beat you down so hard. But we don't know that Rain is actually going to look for this because at this level of play, people will a lot of times discount this as being a possible factor.
And even if he knows to look for it, and he'll probably look for it just because it's third world and sneaky things can occur, but you have to use a shuttle to get over there. Only workers can get over there. So in a situation like this, I can guarantee you that Last is going to go for a fast starport. In between a Wraith and well-placed siege tanks with a dropship, you can sometimes hold on against a Protoss trying to get that third base from you.
So if we can do a super zoom out here, because you made a really good point, Artosis, and I want to talk about it. So this map, the bottom right, can we just go down to the bottom right? I'm sorry, I'm backseat gaming the observer here. So this whole bottom right location, that's connected by land, and then can we pan to the upper left? Everything you're seeing there is actually an island. There's only 1 or 2 areas where workers can access this.
Yes.
But everything else can't. So you're basically watching the players play on like a boomerang or something, and then there's a big land territory that you can also get to, but you have to ferry stuff over there, just so it doesn't look like this is just a big open map. It's not like any of the other maps we have here.
It's actually one of the most interesting and coolest maps ever made, in my opinion, from 20 years of watching StarCraft 1. So very excited that we actually have it rejoining the fray here in KSL versus ASL.
So we see another engineering bay built here. Again, this is just not what not what a PVT looks like normally, but it's really impressive. So he's put an eBay there to delay the third base, since Rain, in a more normal fashion, would take a third base in this matchup, probably in that location. But we also noticed that Rain is going to go for Reavers and shuttles.
Yes.
Which means this third base that Last has for now, it could be wiped out.
Yeah, you know, the speed shuttle is definitely something he has to watch for, but I'd imagine he should be making a starport by now, and between Wraiths and running your SCVs away and utilizing some siege tanks, you should be able to minimize the damage at least.
Now, I don't believe that the Protoss has actually confirmed the location of the third base, but he might just accidentally fly over it when he's trying to drop in the main here. As this game goes on, though, again, remember, the Terran wants to get into mech. We're talking tanks, the Vultures, Goliaths. That's what you use to fight Protoss. And that's why it takes Terran a little bit longer to be active in this matchup. But once they can, they are very scary. So the Observer's going to come through here. Let's see if he actually checks. Does he actually? Oh.
Yeah, it looks like he pretty much knows. He probably caught that out of the corner of his eye. Especially since his Observer's checking the whole base and there's not enough factories there. So you kind of think, oh, okay, there should be a third base out here somewhere.
Now, that being said, he could still try to simply go for a bust here.
Yeah, this could be big. He has to pull those SCVs in time. He actually blocks a lot of the Dragoons, which is really powerful. But in comes that shuttle. The Wraith gets picked off in a matter of seconds, but a lot of damage done to these Dragoons.
Okay, you can see the Reavers firing down. They're trying to get the bunker, and they do not. It's continuing to be repaired.
Oh, what a Reaver shot there. But I have to say, this has been a fantastic hold thus far for Last.
Okay, he's trying to actually crack this. It's crazy how good Protosses have gotten at fighting in these positions, because it used to be believed that you should never try to do this because you would always end up losing everything. But he did a very good job there.
You know, and not just he didn't just do a good job. Last did as well. Guys, turns out pro gamers, they're all right.
They're pretty good. So as the game continues on, it seems like Rain's maybe debating expanding to that bottom right spot. One thing about this is a lot of times if it starts to get too heated on the land connection part of the map, the one player will retreat to the island, and then you're in a completely different game.
Yeah, it's really funny like that, right? Because you'll have situations where you're losing one side of the map, and if you focus all your forces in the other, then likely you'll take over that side, and you can swing the game's balance very quickly that way.
Okay, I believe we're going to see a fleet beacon come down here, and he should be going into carriers, unless I missed Templar tech
right
somewhere in there.
Well, with that Cybernetics core spinning, that is definitely +1 air attack, so certainly that is the case. Looks like carriers are going to be what Rain is going for, and they are strong on this map, almost like no other. It's the ultimate unit here because, again, you can't really get your units to go to the other side of the map without dropships, which the carriers would quickly kill.
Exactly. So for now, we're waiting to see if and when Last is going to push. Now, the game started out weird because his gas was stolen. Rain built an assimilator on there, which slowed everything else down. But we're waiting to see, when that push comes, are the carriers going to be out? Will he have enough carriers to actually chase this away? Because when Protoss get about 4 to 6 carriers, then it becomes a problem. If they only have 2, then the Terran can usually still win the fight.
That definitely is a very important point in the game, like an inflection point almost for the carriers where they start to deal enough damage that it gets scary. But Last having his third base as quickly as he had, like when you get your third base before Protoss, you are feeling mighty fine as a Terran player. But Rain is starting to make some moves now. Look at this, 5 Dragoons going over. This is not enough to kill this area, but he's going to start to pressure it at least.
Yeah, he's done a good job elevatoring that army over here. And you could see Rain's even creating the illusion that he wants to try to get in a fight out here. But this is going to be tough to break. I mean, a bunker, 2 tanks, a turret, and the depot wall. I don't know if he can do anything with this.
Well, more speed shuttles incoming, so it looks like he does want to try to pick a fight over here. The Dragoons pushing forward, picking off that SCV that was trying to make a turret, but really, that's just a distraction.
Okay, here we go. The shuttles are going to be unloading. One does go down. The other, it looks like that's going to be flying right into the main. Maybe a Reaver drop over there.
Yeah, this is actually not going that well, but the Reaver drop starts to. Look at that, some great shots. These Scarabs connecting with so many SCVs, just hurting the economy of Last so much.
I mean, this is so much damage. The Wraith is going to come in here to try to chase this away. Good pickups over here. He's going to try to retreat. Can he get an unload over here?
Oh, well, he does, but it doesn't go as well as planned. Still, a lot of SCVs got killed. Unfortunately for Rain, though, he lost all those Dragoons, he lost 2 shuttles, 2 Reavers, and 4 Zealots. So that is a giant chunk of his land army.
I'm a little bit worried for him because I don't know if that was the right time to attack since the carriers aren't out in full force yet.
Yeah.
But he did get the job done. He did kill a lot of SCVs, and I mean, that's all you're really looking to do right there. But we don't see any activity here from yet from Last. Oh, I spoke too soon. He's just now going to push out here. And again, we just saw a lot of units get lost for the Protoss. So even though Terran might be hurting on workers, Protoss gave up a good chunk of army to do that.
Yeah. Let's see what Rain can do. You know, he's just got Dragoons here. Definitely doesn't have speed on any Zealots. Oh my God. 4 Goons plastered immediately. Rain pushing back up. Brings a shuttle forward. No, not a good time to engage. I feel like Last is going to roll right through him.
Yeah, I'm getting worried here. We need to get those carriers out. Remember, they don't start with interceptors. You have to build those. So there's this mad scramble to try to get enough interceptors to actually combat this. But even with that, there's a decent number of Goliaths here, Artosis.
And these Zealots not having speed, that is the most important upgrade after you get your carriers out. And oh my God, this slow Zealot's going to have such a hard time actually closing this. He comes in with the shuttle, tries to get some drops off. Those Zealots finally making up to the tanks. He'll pick a couple off, but that was not enough damage to the army by Rain.
And now we see Last unsieging. He's going to try to inch in a little bit further forward here. Now, he has not fully shown the carriers. And in case you're wondering why that's happening, why would he attack his own buildings? The interceptors actually come out one by one the first time you attack. After that, they all come out at once. So you'll see him occasionally attack a Nexus or something like that before the main fight.
Well, this is a lot of carriers. Let's see what he can get done. The Dragoons trying to pick off some of these Goliaths, but there are so many. Targeting one of these carriers does put a lot of damage on it, but not enough to kill any yet.
Now, all that Rain has to do is keep this army back. The carrier count is going to grow, and you have to bear in mind this dance that Terran, the Protoss is trying to do about having the Terran off-center with the unit composition. Maybe they have too few Goliaths, maybe they have too many Goliaths, and the Zealots and Dragoons just win the fight.
Zealots coming in did definitely help to tank quite a bit there. The siege tank count is getting lower, but of course a lot of Dragoons have fallen as well. So many Goliaths rallying out. Oh my gosh, with those 2-1 upgrades, they really can kill carriers quite quickly.
Okay, again, another big hit here. These Goliaths are getting lower in numbers. It's harder for the Terran to try to get into this area because you can see where that ridge is. He has to scan to see the high ground, and the moment he does that, Rain simply pulls away.
Rain's having some great carrier micro right now, keeping those back, not losing them. Turrets being made here by our Terran player, but look at this as well. Rain's starting to expand to the other side of the map, and this is a brilliant move. He realizes he's likely to lose his natural, maybe even his main, but he can just build on the other side of the map and defend it with these carriers.
Again, the carriers will come in over here. Terran constantly scanning. Basically, Rain has decided to ditch this expansion for the time being. He says if he wins the fight, he can take it later, but he doesn't want to risk losing any other probes, and I think that Last might be too slow in trying to push into this position.
He might be indeed. This carrier count is starting to get out of control. A lot of them coming in, picking off the Goliaths, some of the siege tanks as well. Of course, the Goliaths are shredding these interceptors, which they have to rebuild. But is Last doing enough damage at the same time?
Yeah, that's the big question here. Last, even if he gets this base, to what end, right? I mean, I don't know that he'll be able to push into the main here, and Rain continues to flourish and spread on this island location on the map.
Yeah, at some point, we have to see Last float maybe some factories over there, bring some of his units there as well to attack the rest of what Rain has. At least he's killed the natural, I guess, but it feels to me like Rain is starting to gain a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, it might look like, because that base was destroyed, that maybe this is going to go to the Terran's direction, but realistically, how will this ground army from the Terran ever actually push into the island area of the map? That's where the rest of the expansions are. There's only one more base at the very bottom right that we have to assume that Last is going to try to expand to, and in fact he is. We see a floating command center just above this army. But after that, where do you go?
No, you're quite right about that. Now, in the professional games that we've seen on Third World so far, eventually we're going to see a bunch of dropships ferry over some of the units when the armies really start to, show up on the left-hand side of the map. And also, we might see him float a bunch of factories down there so he can just produce his Goliaths more quickly.
Okay, a small number of Goliaths have come into this location to try to hit the production center where these carriers are, and it's just one cannon here to defend. Now, as much as Protoss has an air, the ground army for Protoss is mostly isolated to the land side of the map.
Yeah, it's quite true, and you do need some land units with those carriers to try to fight off all the Goliaths. The Goliaths just straight up should be able to beat the carriers if they have good upgrades.
Again, the carrier number begins to grow more and more. Although Rain needs to be careful. I mean, being over on this side of the map, if the Goliaths simply get under the carriers, all the carriers go away.
I gotta say, I'm loving how Rain is playing this right now.
Oh my God,
that's a lot of High Templars right there. If he can kill all these off, that is a huge win for Last.
Yeah, I don't think he has Psystorm yet. What he wanted to do is try to storm the bulk of that army. He can try to fight this, though, over here. It's very hard for these Goliaths to get up this ramp, especially with these Zealots streaming down. Yeah,
but they have to stream down single file because that is such a tiny ramp. So Last is taking a reasonable fight here, but still his Goliath count is shrinking. His siege tanks are being picked off as well.
As the game goes on, you can see Last is still struggling to try to get up into this high ground area. I mean, even with the carriers doing such a good job in hitting this, the Dragoons and Zealots also spilling down here. It's tough. And let's say that eventually Rain does have to back off. Where will Terran expand next?
Yeah, it is always the question, but a 4-base Terran is a scary Terran. You can really produce a lot of units for a very long time in that situation. Look at this, he's actually scanning, going after the carriers once again. Oh, Rain losing a few too many carriers recently, and of course those High Templars as well. Some big losses for our Protoss.
Meanwhile, a big drop here by Last is now going to hit the island area. Oh, he's going to pick up the moment he sees the carriers coming in. He's going to get out of there.
You got to be careful with that. You lose those drop ships. That is a lot of value down the tubes. But I want to go back to something that Rain is doing here. I love how he's still trying to maintain a little bit of presence on this side. It's making it so Last can't do more than small drops on the left side of the map.
You know, here's the thing, Artosis. It seems like when he picked up that bit of his army and moved to the island, there wasn't actually enough to then hold this position here. And suddenly a flood of Rain's army is going to come down here and bash this bottom right base on the minimap.
Yeah, he has to hold this, but 3 Goliaths will do nothing against that group of units coming down. He is sending more over, but the more we see Goliaths without siege tank support, the Goliaths are eventually going to die to Dragoons and Zealots.
Yeah, Goliaths are inferior compared to the Dragoons and the Zealots, and now some Psystorm here. You can basically treat these Goliaths as if they're Hydralisks here, continuing to do damage, and this may be the beginning of the end here for Last.
Yeah, some great play here by Rain. He's really going to kill off this bottom right base, which is so important for Last. The 4th base is a crucial one in Terran vs. Protoss.
You can see this Dragoon now hitting this command center over here. Nowhere else to expand here for last. And again, the carrier's in such high numbers with this location basically gone now for last. I think Rain is going to devote his air fleet over here to the island portion of the map now.
It's a really good choice too. As last, you really just try to push and kill that natural once again, retake the bottom right. It doesn't feel like a winning proposition, but I mean, he is sending his army out. I don't think he has a lot of drop ships. He has to get something done now, though.
Okay, the carriers are continuing to do so much damage, and you know, this is why carriers are so powerful at high numbers, is if you're good at controlling them, you just shift out the weaker carrier, and it's hard for that ground army to catch up, but eventually you end up with this number that's so high, it's so difficult for the Terran to face off against.
Well, let's check the Terran upgrades right now if we could click on one of their units here. 3-1, so that's pretty legit. I mean, you really want to have that +2 armor, but the +3 attack are going to make interceptors get absolutely shredded.
It seems like at this point in time, Rain is just going to try to outlast Last here. He knows that Last can't really get a third base up. He's looking for a fight. The carrier fleet is now moving over here to this right side of the map. I mean, this is really Last's big hurrah here.
Oh man, some great Psy Storms coming out of Rain. His ground army looks like it will evaporate in the face of 3-1 mech, but these carriers continuing to pick off units on the fringes.
And again, the moment that Rain decides he can't win that fight, he backs off. He's already macroing out of all of those gateways. He's got another army ready to replenish and come in here and fight. Looks like we're going to see that right now.
Just continually whittling down Last here. Psy Storms all over these Goliaths. The Goliaths move attacking into these carriers, picking off what they can, but each and every one will fall. The carriers clean up that army, and GG is called. Rain wins game number 3.
Nicely done by Rain. This guy's got such strong early game. I mean, Last, you could see he's such a talented player, but it's hard to recover once Rain pulls off his strategies.
Yeah, and you know what? That is a map that can be a little bit hard once they have carriers out. You know, we were talking about this before. I felt like Last played very well in the early and mid game, but as that carrier count climbed, it became very difficult for Last to hold on.
Well, right now, Rain is 1 win away from becoming the champion of the KSL versus ASL show match. These two players, champions of the 2 major StarCraft Remastered leagues in Korea. Rain, the victor of the ASL, is looking very strong. He might take the whole thing, Artosis.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good right now, and we'll have to see our next map. I think it's probably going to be Sparkle, but we will see about that momentarily. Could be a very interesting game if that's the case.
Yeah, this is going to be funny. If it turns out it is Sparkle, we'll see what map is in fact selected here. Again, PVT, such a great matchup in StarCraft, but it's complicated, right? The Terran has to find that right tech path if they're going to close it out. We're going to go to a short break. When we come back, game number 4 here of the KSL versus ASL show match. we are back here at the KSL versus ASL show match. Right now, Rain with a 2-1 lead over Last.
That's right. It's been a very good series so far, though. Some close games, a little bit of one-sidedness, especially in that game number 1. But as we enter into game 4, we have an island map. Something very rare in the world of professional StarCraft.
Oh, did they pick Sparkle? Huh. Okay. We'll unpack this map for you guys. There are island maps in StarCraft 1. They don't use them in StarCraft 2 because, you know, the game is constantly being patched and stuff, and it's a whole other mess to try to balance island maps. But anyways, we'll unpack that a little bit more in just a second. In the upper right, in the yellow, I'm not used to them not being red or blue. In the yellow, make some noise for Last. And in the teal, our Protoss player, make some noise for Rain.
So, Sparkle.
Yeah.
Well, this is an island map, and it was the first island map that we had in the professional scene for a very long time. Something like, what was it, 13 years?
Yeah, so
15 years maybe it was.
You can play on island maps, but you know there became some open debate early on in StarCraft about what exactly is a Zerg player supposed to do if they don't have an expansion on the island map. And at the time, none of the maps did. If you want to go to a classic island map like Dire Straits or something, really old map. I mean, what is a Zerg supposed to do? They'd have to tech to a layer and then get drop a drone somewhere.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to be quite fair. But, you know, now that StarCraft is 20 years old, they've tried reintroducing it. And the theme on this map is that you start out with an expansion on your island that you can go to. And there's also, do you want to explain, if we can get a shot over here to the left of this neutral, go ahead and explain this.
Okay,
I'll let you take this one.
This was the attempt to try to make Sparkle a balanced map. It has creep there. There's actually a geyser underneath that crystal at the top that only Zerg can take because extractors are slightly bigger than assimilators and refineries. It's all very kind of weird and complicated because the game is 20 years old. But you know, this map, we had it for the whole season of ASL that Rain won. And I got to say, to be fair, Terran versus Protoss here, I feel like it's the best matchup. There's definitely some play to it. There's a lot of different build orders you can open with. Like, you can expand very quickly. That's oftentimes the way that people like to go about it because, well, you can't really be rushed. It's a 4-player island map. There's no way to get there quickly. But then you can go into things like mass speed shuttle drops. You can try to go for air right away. You can go for Goliath drops or Wraiths as the Terran player. And there's a lot of very segmented battles because it takes a while for your army to get anywhere.
Exactly. So on island maps, you can imagine that carriers would be quite strong. Protoss need to get shuttles. Of course, the Terran player is going to be very reliant on dropships. In case you're wondering about air-to-air and PvT, Terran doesn't really want to just go math race. You can, but generally speaking, Protoss kind of have an answer for everything air-to-air in a PvT. That doesn't mean it's not fair because, of course, Goliaths and dropships, when you think about it like this, you can fit 4 Goliaths in a dropship. You can fit 2 Dragoons in a shuttle. So you can actually relocate a lot more army in a handful of dropships than you can with a handful of shuttles.
Yes, and while that's true, it kind of gets funny because as you tech up higher, the Protoss starts to win in that regard a little bit. Like Psy Storms, you can fit 4 High Templars in a shuttle, and suddenly that'll kill 5 shuttles worth of things for Terran. But then it's very much more risky if you end up losing it. Anyways, long story short, this is going to be a weird game.
It certainly will be, but it is fun to see island maps in RTS games because it is such a different beast. It really does require a totally different approach. When we first started casting ASL and this map was out, we really learned a lot about you know, what the pros think of island maps. We saw unit combinations that we never really were used to seeing before. For instance, mass Corsairs in PvP. We would see a lot of plays where Queens were utilized to try to use ensnare since it was more of a focal point of airplay.
Yes, and so to point out what's going right now, they're actually killing off the buildings at their naturals. The gas is under there. This is another balancing mechanism. You cover up the gas so you can't take it right away. it just kind of fixes some of the matchups. Anyways, we have a Stargate going up for Rain, so he's going to get a quick Corsair to scout with. And, I mean, Corsairs obviously beat Wraiths as long as they can see them. On the other side, Last is going for Wraiths. I'm not too surprised because Last is one of the best players with Wraith Micro, and you can control the map like that. But it gets a little bit complicated, right? Because Corsairs beat Wraiths, but Valkyries beat Corsairs, but anything beats Wraith Valkyrie.
Yes. So it's kind of this weird game of the two players trying to counter each other. Of course, they're forced into this direction because of the nature of an island map. And I think Rain is going to be pretty satisfied when he scouts double starport to find out that he's already organically moved into a unit composition that can kind of combat that that Last is bringing out.
Absolutely. That is exactly going to be the case here. So here he comes, scouting it in. And as soon as he sees the Corsair, he knows Dark Templars are not on the way. He no longer needs to go for that engineering base, so cancels it. The Marine's going to try to push back the Corsair. Great micro there by Last. If those Corsairs got on top of the Wraith, it will die.
Oh, for sure. And one thing to keep in mind is, guys, Corsairs do splash damage, and Wraiths, they die about faster than anything else that's in the game, really. So if the Corsairs can get a good position and start to hit the Wraiths will all disappear.
Yeah, now we should be seeing, because he has scouted that it's 2-port Wraiths going Cloak, we see that Rain is going for cannons. This is going to give him detection and protection against Wraith harassment. He's also going into a robotics. We'll probably see speed observers added into his Corsairs, and as long as he can keep those speed observers alive, of course observers with that speed upgrade so they're harder to pick off, then he should be able to kill the Wraiths. But of course, we saw that armory there. Are we going to see Valkyries from Last? I think it's likely.
It would make sense, right? Considering the structures he already has, you're kind of forced into then trying to use the starports for something else, because there's this whole concept of what have you invested in StarCraft, and then you got to kind of make that work, right? You can't just stop doing one tech and switch into something else without basically ending up behind no matter what, because you've invested so much into this thing.
Yeah, the sunken cost fallacy doesn't exist in StarCraft. You actually do have to get something out of it. You put that much money in, you better make it work in some way or another. Now, a double robo coming up. This is going to be for observers and for shuttles, because shuttles, the name of the game for the Terran player in this situation is to utilize, if he does make some Valks, you can see the Valkyrie popping up now, those will be to counter the Corsairs, and then he's going to just kind of play whack-a-mole with shuttles. He wants to kill off every shuttle that he possibly can, and as Tasteless said, you can only fit 2 Dragoons in there, so after he kills a shuttle, if the Dragoons get out, you just kind of kill them with your Wraiths on an island and try to keep Protoss down to his 2 bases.
We might have Rain come in here for an actual fight. Keep in mind, scans can kill the observers, and then the Wraiths go invisible, and they can kill everything, but if these Corsairs can get in a fight with these Wraiths, it is going to be so bad.
Now, one of the reasons why Corsairs kill Wraiths quickly is splash damage, so you're going to see everything blow up in a matter of seconds here, but the Valkyries in a great spread here by Rain, just fantastic. The Valkyrie splash being minimized, and as an observer comes in, every Wraith gets picked off.
And now it is just Corsairs over here fighting these Valkyries, and you can see the Rain's controlled really well. He's spreading to the point where it doesn't really matter that all this spread damage is coming out if it can't connect with everything. Now, guys, Corsairs can't hit ground, so he wins that fight, and then he can't really do anything. But right now, Rain really has the upper hand here. He's really in control of this. And when you're on an island map and there's a fleet of air units that can kill anything in the skies, it's going to be very difficult to win the game.
And look at this. He's camping those starports right now, so he kills the next Valkyrie that comes out. Those are expensive units. 250 minerals apiece, as well as gas. Now, finally, some Goliaths pop out so he can push these back, and they were already damaged, so he actually is going to end up losing all but 2 Corsairs.
Nicely done. He does pick that off. Meanwhile, Rain is going to go ahead and expand to this island. And also, Rain did scout that there's a command center located over here, so we really want to watch and see, is Rain going to try to get over there and start hitting the island?
Well, this is where the double robo comes into play. He's going to have lots of shuttles with speed. He's going to try to ferry over enough units and kill off that command center. It's kind of tricky for Last, right? Because he has to make some anti-air to get his dropships over there, but he also has to make dropships.
Okay, I think Rain's going to be itching to try to hit this island in this key moment here. He's got several more Corsairs up here. He's got a lot of Dragoons. And does he have a Robo support bay? I don't know.
Yes, he does.
Okay, so we want to see Reavers and speed for the shuttles upgraded here. And I think he's going to be hitting in just a little bit.
Yeah, 4 shuttles. Look at that. The Reaver pops out as well, as you said, Tasteless. That is a scary army in there. I mean, that's a good amount of Terran units there, but he needs 2 more dropships worth if he's going to hold.
Okay. We have the shuttles coming up here.
Oh my God, they're actually going to the main.
It's actually going to, it's going to be an attack in the main here.
Oh, a smart move. He flies right over the turrets, lets a lot of units out right there. Definitely takes some damage on those shuttles as well, but he recognizes that so many of Last's units are at the island.
And this is a great exploit here with the Reaver now hitting these SCVs. Last is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he certainly is. The Reaver doing tons of damage. These units have to be ferried back. He needs to siege up here and kill that Reaver, especially the Dragoons doing some serious damage here.
And it looks like with that next Reaver shot, another tank goes down, and there should be more Dragoons on the way here to try to help out.
Oh my gosh, that siege tank getting low. The SCVs help to get that Reaver kill. A few Dragoons left over, but a lot of SCVs died, and a lot of the mech units of Last died.
This is so interesting to see Rain try to come in here in the main. He knew that Last would over-defend the island location, and now he's basically on top of the production facilities here for Terran. GG!
And that is that. Rain goes up 3-1 and wins the series. KSL versus ASL. Looks like our ASL champion has come out on top.
So Rain with a brilliant set of games back there. Crushes Last on land maps, on maps where half of the map is an island, on maps where there's islands everywhere. He basically did it in every possible fashion, Artosis.
Land, sea, or air.
Yes.
Rain is victorious.
Nicely done. Again, Rain, a StarCraft 2 champion, also a StarCraft 1 champion, possibly the best RTS gamer of all time. He has done it again, Artosis.
He has. It was a fun series, though, I have to say. That last map, a little bit crazy, but that's how Sparkle goes. A very nice series here in StarCraft Remastered.
Well, I cannot wait to see more of these guys in future KSLs and ASLs. Of course, we have plenty more of that down the road, as StarCraft 1 in South Korea is really never going to go away. I'm really curious to see what Rain's thinking now that he's actually managed to beat Last. Smix, how is Rain?
Thank you very much, Tasteless. Let's find out from Rain himself. Congratulations, Rain. There are still so many fans for you here in the audience. When it came to this KSL versus ASL BlizzCon show match, Last is a player that's had great momentum lately. So how does it feel to be the one to break that momentum and win here in Anaheim? 일단 축하드리고요. 김성현 선수가 요즘에 기세가 되게 좋았었는데 그 기세를 꺾고 이 무대, 이 해외 팬들 앞에서 이기는 소감 대해서 얘기해 주세요.
우선 이렇게 해외 대회는 좀 오랜만에 왔어요. 원래 스타2 때 자주 왔었는데 이제 스타1으로 종목을 바꾸면서 해외 팬들한테 직접 보여줄 기회가 없었는데 이렇게 그래도 성현이가 요새 좀 기세가 좋은데 저도 아직 죽지 않았다는 걸 보여주기 위해서 열심히 했는데 결과가 좋네요.
So he says, it's been a really, really long time since I've been able to play in front of my foreign fans. Obviously I used to play StarCraft 2 and I used to come out all the time, but it's been about 3 years and I haven't been able to play in front of you guys ever since I switched to StarCraft 1. So I know that Last has been doing really, really well lately, but I tried my absolute hardest and I'm really glad to show that I'm still alive, I'm still fighting, and I'm still doing really, really well. And the last time you were at BlizzCon was actually in 2015. So what is it like for you to be back here in Anaheim in front of your foreign fans? In fact, there are plenty of signs that say your name right now. So what is that like for you? 일단 블리츠컨에 온 지 벌써 3년이나 됐어요. 그럼에도 불구하고 되게 팬들이 많이 와 있는데 이런 팬들 앞에서 다시 경기를 할 수 있는 그 느낌 대해서 얘기해 주세요.
우선 블리즈컨에 초청해 주셔가지고 정말 감사드리고 그래도 좀 스타1이 한국에서만 인기가 많은데 그래도 여기 오니까 확실히 외국 분들도 많이 좋아해 주신다는 것을 느꼈어요. 그래서 너무 감사드리고 돌아가서 또 이제 KSL이랑 또 ASL이 있기 때문에 네, 좋은 모습 보여드리도록 하겠습니다.
So he says, first of all, I'm really, really thankful. It's really cool to be back in front of you guys. I know that when it comes to Brood War, it's mainly popular in Korea, but it's really awesome to see coming here once again that there are still fans for Brood War in the foreign community. So that's super, super awesome. A huge thank you to all of you guys. When I go back to Korea, I have more tournaments to play in both the KSL and ASL, so I hope you continue to cheer for me then. So congratulations again, and now we are going to begin the awards ceremony and bring out Grant Davies, the lead engineer for StarCraft Remastered. And we're going to give him a trophy and a set of flowers to congratulate you on this victory over Last, who, as Rain mentioned, has been a very, very great player as of late. Once again, congratulations. Rain is the KSL vs. ASL show match champion. Let's head back to Clarius to wrap up day number 1 here at BlizzCon.
And with that, Rain is victorious. Congratulations to him for winning the show match as a whole, proving that ASL champion is superior to our KSL champion here for the wrap-up of the day. Joining me, of course, in control, Pig and Maynard. Gotta ask you, what did you make of the series as a whole? Rain 3-1 overall.
It was a lot quicker than I was anticipating. A lot of these TVP matchups in particular can go pretty long, but Protoss have gotten a lot more aggressive, and we definitely saw from Rain in the games that he won, in particular, not the last one was standing, I guess, he just did it off the back of some pretty decisive attacks and able to pull ahead. And even the game he lost actually was a timing attack from Last, so pretty impressive. It was fun to see an island map, by the way. I know that that's much maligned. It's always been kind of imbalanced one way or the other. It's fun watching because Roddy was back there and he's like, what the heck is a hatchery doing on that map? And there's a lot of different things going on in Brood War in order to make some of these maps a little bit more balanced, but they definitely came close with Sparkle, and we got to see some different gameplay, so it was fun.
Yeah, that was an exciting match there. Always fun seeing, are the Scarabs going to find their way into the SCVs, or are they just going to get stuck on a building? They found their way into some pretty juicy targets in these games. I mean, it was a really nice series there. Rain looked very relaxed on the stage. He had a smile on his face in between the games. He's got so much experience up here, and you can tell it's kind of like, it's a bit of a homecoming for Rain. He's just like, hey, I get to play at BlizzCon again. This is awesome. I think maybe a little bit more nerves for Last, his first time up here, but he definitely had a good showing. This game too, especially, was an awesome push. Really great play.
Yeah, I think something that always tickles my fancy when it comes to kind of checking in with StarCraft Remastered and things like that. I never really watched too much Brood War before getting into StarCraft 2, but kind of the variety of maps that you can have kind of played out, Maynard, in these kind of series. It's really cool to see.
Well, it's because the game just hasn't been patched since 2001 or something like that. So to create variety, the map is it, right? So the meta does change, the maps does change. And that is the way the game's stayed fresh for so long, and it really has been fresh for so long. These games are exciting, they're wonderful. I'm never going to get sick of watching Brood War played at the highest level. Rain is such a fantastic player, and